Hey, this is Jeremy with the Practical IT channel. In this episode, hey, this is Jeremy with the IT. God damn it. Take 3. Hey, this is Jeremy with the Practical IT channel. Today we're going to take a look at Extix Linux 21.1, but we're going to do this a little bit differently. Normally I start off these videos with the installation, but since everybody has seen a Linux installation before, I'm still going to record it, but I'm going to move it to the end of the video. So if you want to see the installation part of Extix, jump down to the timestamps and you can jump to the end of the video and see that. And so we are going to actually jump right in and look at the desktop in Extix and some of the features, get a Lynis score and all that fun stuff. So let's get started. All right, we are at the Extix Linux desktop. Doesn't look at first glance a lot different from other Linux distributions. There are a few interesting pieces that I like, and there are a couple that I'm not so thrilled with. But let's start out. One of the first tests I do is to see if CTRL-ALT-T opens a terminal, and it does. This distribution actually just lets you use Control plus instead of Control Shift plus to increase font size in your terminal. So let's get some updates going in the background, and then we'll take a look around at some other things while the updates are running. I will say that they do have this extra password line that seems to show up. I have not seen that on other Linux distributions, but that, I don't know, it just seems odd. So we'll let that run in the background. One of the first things I like to look at is what does their menu system look like? And in this particular version of Extix, with the settings that I chose in the install, which, by the way, if you didn't watch the intro, you can find the install at the end of this video. But the menu looks pretty standard here. And we'll see what we've got for File Manager. As you can see, they've rounded off all the corners of the windows, which is a nice little touch. I'm curious to see about. And so this is the File Manager from the Deepin Desktop people. And I will say this is sharp looking. It's got just that little bit of difference from other Linux distributions that I typically look at, that you know, it's something different. It's a little bit eye-catching. Granted, there are a few more requirements if you're running this on hardware. It does want a larger install disk. You know, it's not bad at all. Computers in the LAN, it just comes up with Windows Network, and it doesn't show any items. So that's interesting. Usually I see my NAS boxen show up. We've got some pretty standard things. File Manager, Terminal, which I believe is the terminal from the Deepin people. LX Terminal from LXDE or LXQT, I'm not sure which. The control panel is very reminiscent of macOS. It is somewhat simplified than a current macOS, but it gives you really everything you need, and it's clean looking. And compared to a system that has multiple settings apps, yes, Redmond, Washington, I'm talking to you. I find this to be much cleaner and much more logical than what we've seen in recent versions of that OS out of Redmond, Washington. You've got updates right from in the main settings, keyboard language, mouse, which we could speed this up a bit. That's better. Oh, that's scrolling speed. So let's go to mouse, pointer speed. I'll take it. It's not a laptop, so we don't need to worry too much about power. Again, that's more geared towards laptops. Date and time, that's correct. Sound, notifications, network. We are in a wired connection. System proxy is disabled. Application proxy. Network details, and that gives standard information. Personalization. I generally go for dark mode themes these days. Gives you an accent color. Let's go with that. Default applications. Obviously it comes with Firefox, text editors, music is the default music player. We don't have a default for video, image viewer, and terminal. And that's fine for the time being. Display, we set that to, there we go, 1920 by 1080. When I go into full screen mode in VirtualBox, it did bump that up from the initial setting that I had made after install of 1440 by 900. Brightness, could dial that back a bit. That's not going to have any effect because I'm on a virtual machine. Likewise, night shift is likely not going to have any sort of effect, but color temperature, again, not being directly connected to the monitor, it will not have much of an effect. Display scaling, so if you're using a 4K monitor or higher resolution, you can make things a little bit larger and set your refresh rate. That's great. Deepin ID, not going to use that. And accounts. So you can get rid of the live user. Delete that right now. So it's just my account. Let's see how our updates are going. And that is done updating. So I'm going to reboot and I will be back in just a moment. All right, it still reboots to a text login. I've got a suspicion that this is due to something with VirtualBox. And it's still got the double password there happening. So we'll use the good old startx and get into the graphical interface and see what we can do with this. Now it does come up fairly quick once you enter that command, but this is the first distribution in a number of years where I've actually had to use that. So that's a little odd, shall we say. Okay, so we're looking at the menu again. We're going to relaunch the terminal because we'll need that in a moment. But we've got different things in here as well. What do we have down here at the bottom? Multitasking view, which we only have one window open. We've got a double multitasking view. Oh, show desktop and multitasking view. File manager. So we'll open that back up again. All right, and then we'll do multitasking view. So that's clearly macOS inspired, where you can use the plus up here to add another desktop, and you have the X to close it out. Again, that's all good. All right, escape takes you out of that. And then down here we've got the App Store, Album, Music, Calendar, Control Center, which we've already looked at a little bit, and Terminal. See, Terminal is running. So let's see if Git is installed, and it is. All right, so let's go ahead and grab Lynis. So we're going to say sudo, see if I can keep this from repeating itself. There we go. That's better. All right, so right off the bat, unknown OS found in Etsy OS release. We are running the latest version of Lynis downloaded from GitHub, and we'll see what this turns up. Been experiencing more of these long execution time warnings lately with Lynis. I'm not sure if it's a bug. I'm not sure if it's related to my system. I think I've mentioned before, additional testing is going to be required to try to determine that, and potentially a bug submitted to the Lynis people, because I don't think it happened in older versions of Lynis. So that's a little perplexing there, but we'll make do with that as best we can. I suspect that this will not have SSHD installed, the SSH server. It will probably score okay from a security standpoint. Again, this is just a building block, a baseline, if you will, to determine where things are at. I normally run Lynis before doing a lot of configuration, but after doing the initial updates. Okay, so SSH daemon is not found. It will be interesting to see what our final score is. This actually seems to be pushing through this fairly quick right now. Or maybe I spoke too soon. I'm not sure why they're even loading the Telnet client package anymore. Again, RSH shouldn't be needed, but we'll find out a little bit more soon. And we're moving a bit again. Little warnings and marks as different than expected. 60 is our baseline hardening index for Extix. And if we come back to the top of all this text here. All right, so right off the bat, can't find any security repository in Etsy apt sources.list or sources.list.d directory. I think that's the first time I've seen that warning. Couldn't find two responsive name servers. That might be the first I've seen that warning. IP tables module loaded, but no rules active. English translation, the firewall exists and is installed, but it's not running. Under suggestions, again, grub password, I don't do that in virtual machines. Hardening system services, disabling of core dumps, check PAM configuration, configure password hashing rounds, install PAM module for password strength testing. When possible, set expired dates for all password protected accounts, minimum and maximum password age, some default UMask information, and again, it complains about having everything on a contiguous file system, place temp on a separate partition, check Etsy FS tab for swap partition mount options, database required for locate, several of these, here we go. Disable drivers like USB when not used. Disable drivers like FireWire when not used. check DNS configuration for DNS domain name, purge old packages, install debsums, install app show versions, consider a tool for automatically applying upgrades. A lot of these are pretty basic things that any Linux user should learn to do by default. CUPS configuration could be more strict. Check CUPS configuration if it really needs to listen on the network. Legal banner stuff. Check what deleted files are still in use and why. Systat to collect accounting results. So, overall 60 is not awful. It's definitely a baseline to start building upon for making the system more secure. So let's take a look at their version of the App Store. Of course, we're going to have a little bit of Chinese in there. The Deepin Desktop is Chinese in origin, from my understanding. However, Extix is not, but obviously they have left some default information in the way that they've configured the store. I am most interested in having some sort of an office suite on here, and they're going to give you multiple options. WP Office 2019 is the office suite that Deepin seems to be pushing, and Extix seems to be on board with that. You've also got SoftMaker Office. I use LibreOffice. I'm going to go ahead and kick off the install for that. Surprisingly enough, even though Adobe Flash is now discontinued, defunct, no longer supported, they still include it as an option for install. Hopefully the next upgrade or update they do to the software store, they will get rid of that. Would not have hurt feelings if I never had to see Adobe Flash again. So the day is coming, and let's just close things out by taking a look at Wallpaper and Screensaver. It's always interesting to see what wallpapers get included, and that's a clean new take on selecting wallpapers. I kind of like that. A little cartoony looking there. I think I like this one the best of the bunch. And a screensaver. Obviously this isn't going to run terribly fast on a virtual machine, but there's got to be one that runs halfway decent. That's not awful. Okay, so disco ball. None of these appear to have any settings. The disco ball is kind of interesting, except the way it's rendered, the one side it kind of looks flat when it comes around the curve, but no harm, no foul. Will it switch to any other screensaver? The bad part about this modern design is that there is no X to exit out. Escape doesn't seem to be doing it. Clicking on the main part of the screen doesn't seem to be doing it. There it goes, finally. So the immediate question I've got is, what version of LibreOffice is included? 7.0, which that's fine because 7.1 is still in beta or release candidate stage. So not the end of the world there. Take a look at the exact version. Turn off tips. Close this. And we've got 7.0.0.3. Yeah, that version's lagging behind a bit. Not sure what the exact version of the 7.0 series is. We can find that out here momentarily. Drill down to Firefox, and we can find out what version might be the latest in the 7.0 series. And then we'll wrap this up. Or maybe we Yep, the repeat bites me again. Okay, so yeah, there are a couple of little pieces that I'm not terribly thrilled about with Extix. I like the look of it. I like some of the ideas that they have brought from the Deepin Desktop. Execution of those ideas, I give a 3.5 out of 5. Yeah, that's what I thought. 7.0.4 is the most recent of the 7.0 series. So, yeah, I mean, if you're running it on a physical machine and not a VM, you're likely to have a much cleaner experience than what I have been able to show here. If you're running on a newer machine than what I'm running this on, even in a VM, you're likely to have a cleaner, more responsive experience than what I've been able to show here. Do I think this has promise for the future? Yes, absolutely. My big concern is that for a non-Chinese audience, that there is so much that is still in Chinese that I think that would be a distraction. I think that would raise some eyebrows about, is the Chinese government tracking this in some way? Which is probably bordering on paranoia, but I, for instance, am in the United States of America, and I don't want to be subject to any sort of Chinese spying if I can avoid it. While I can appreciate the work that's gone into this Linux distribution, and I do think it holds some promise for the future, my official standpoint as of January 2021 is to give this a pass and take a look at what they do to develop things further in another 6 months or a year. You never know, sometimes you are pleasantly surprised. And on that note, I'm going to wrap this up. This has become a much longer video than I had ever anticipated. Hopefully I can edit it down a bit and make it something people will watch. If you haven't done so already, please take a moment to like and subscribe. Click the bell icon for notifications. Feel free to leave comments down below. I do read each and every one of those comments before they go live on my YouTube channel. You've got to weed out the riffraff somehow. No insult intended to riffraff from Rocky Horror. Yeah, this is going to wrap things up. Thank you once again for watching. Stay safe out there. Happy computing, and have a great day. Now. You're still here. You must want to watch the install part of the video. We'll switch right to that now. You have officially made it to the end of the video and the start of the Extix install. Thank you for your support and for watching the video. Let's get started with the install. We're going to walk through step by step, starting with a clean creation of a VirtualBox VM and through the various steps to get this installed. Okay, so let's do this. We come up to this top and say new. We're just going to call this Extix 21.1. It is Linux, and that is going to be based on it's a derivative of Debian and or Ubuntu. Continue. We're going to give this 4 gigs of RAM. And Extix is special in that it requires a larger virtual hard drive than most. They do expect you really to be installing this on a physical machine and having a good amount of space available. So we'll make a virtual 130 gig hard drive. Okay, so we need to look at some settings. And right off the bat, we're going to go to System, turn off the floppy drive. We're going to go ahead and enable EFI for this particular VM. And we're going to give it a second processor core. In reality, 4 cores or more would be better, but on display we bumped up to max video memory and enabled 3D acceleration. Storage, we are going to grab the 21.1 Deepin Extix ISO. And then the last thing we need to change is put networking to the bridged setting. And we should be all set to start this up. Okay, even though we chose Extix, it still selected ENSO for some reason. And Extix is right there. Start. Okay, Extix Deepin. Blow this up. And we'll see what we can do with this, and maybe we'll have some decent luck getting to a desktop that actually fills a screen. That would be nice, and something that's not seen in a lot of Linux distributions, even now in the beginning of 2021. This should not take too long, and we should arrive at a live desktop, and hopefully we can get this show on the road. All right, this is a relatively good sign. Usually there's a black screen before it jumps to the desktop. And so hopefully that will happen momentarily. We've got a pointer. And here we go. The dock is still loading. All right, we are going to go ahead and just directly kick off the install. Is it happy now? Yes, new system edition available. Okay. All right, so right off, we don't want the user experience program. We will accept the end user license agreement. Yes, I know it might affect performance. And obviously they did not intend this for the small screen resolution that VirtualBox forced us into. And we'll just go ahead and get this installed. And now we wait. So I'm going to turn off my microphone and I will speed this up in post-production, and I will see you on the other side of the install. All right, we've reached the end. We're going to go ahead and reboot. We'll get this rebooted and we should be ready to start using our new Deepin Desktop on Extix Linux 21.1. And since this is just the install part, that's at the end of the video. If you are watching this first, you'll want to jump back to the beginning of the video and see the rest of my review and my thoughts overall on this distribution. Stick around until we get to a desktop, and then I will cut this. All right, so we made it to, I think, the first run wizard. And we're going to continue in English. Detroit. Create an account. Let's pick a balloon. And it's tuning the system. It says where every other distribution would say saving changes or applying changes. Tuning system. All right, I guess dare to be different, right? All right, so we've wound up at a black screen. We will try to log in. And I'm not sure why this didn't get us to a graphical desktop, but we'll restart and try this again. Hopefully it was just a little bit of a glitch. Interesting. Good old startx to the rescue. And that gets us there. Okay, so I don't think this is expected functionality, shall we say? But we will work with it. Fashion mode, let's do efficient mode. Let's leave it at effect mode. And we got one set of icons to pick from, so that's fine. And the only thing I'm going to do here is see if we can't change the resolution to something that is slightly more usable, like 1440 by 900. If you made it this far, we have now completed the install part. And if you want to see the rest of my thoughts on Extix with the Deepin Desktop, this is Extix 21.1. Head to the beginning of the video and watch from there. Bye for now.